Hello everyone, welcome back to another session by K21 Academy. Today our expert Srina will be talking about why is it important to learn AWS DevOps. So let's get into the video.
So the first and foremost thing, the reason that why learn AWS DevOps, why should I learn? What is in it for me to learn AWS DevOps? So as you can see, if you look into the evolution of development and deployment, so it has been changed drastically. So in the beginning, it was a waterfall model where the application architecture was monolithic. Applications were run in physical servers, and application infrastructure was a physical on-premises data center. Later on, after the waterfall model, agile model came into picture where you can run an entire application architecture as a application architecture. Then you have a virtual servers, and then you can host them. You can have a data center which can be hosted on a particular other data center. And post that, from now we have a DevOps for a development process, and our application architecture, our microservice application architecture, we are doing a deployment and packaging in the containers, and the application infrastructure is going to be the cloud. So we are currently here, right? We're currently here. So learning at DevOps is must because we are here. All our application architecture, deployment and packaging, application infrastructure, everything is changed. Everything is upgraded now in order to suit this particular requirement. So your particular development process also has to change, and that is a DevOps cycle or a DevOps way of doing an application development process, right? That is where DevOps learning DevOps is very very important. So DevOps itself is a very big topic. So it will have several stages, several phases, which can be done by several services in the cloud, in particular to AWS. So as you can see, you have there are different phases like planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, and then again deploying, and then operating it, and then monitoring it again, planning it. So this entire life cycle is called DevOps life cycle. And here, making sure that each of these particular phases are interconnected to each other, which are continuously coordinating with each other, is what you need to make sure, so that whenever there is a feedback from a customer and say that there is a changes needs to be done, then it has to be automatically changed, and it has to be automatically modified, and your developer should get the feedback and they should implement the changes, and that changes within no time has to reflect in the production environment. So that is what is the entire DevOps life cycle is all about. And that is the reason why we need to learn DevOps, because we are here. Our architecture is microservice. We're using container-based applications, right? Now, if you look into the why DevOps on AWS, there are DevOps in Azure and GCP. Why DevOps on AWS? If you look into the data, it says that AWS popularity is more than other cloud vendors. So that's because of the major companies are using AWS. Now, the more the use of AWS workload, there will be more demand for AWS DevOps, and that is where we come into picture. So as you can see, the trend is higher for AWS. So which means that the AWS DevOps engineer will have more demand compared to other DevOps engineers. Now in AWS, this is the gist of you need to understand. These are the various services which will be involved in AWS DevOps. So we'll not go deep dive of each of these services. I'll just briefly go through each of these services. But before that, so these are the phases what we have, right? As you can see, we have a plan phase, and then we have a code phase, and then you have a build phase. So that is called continuous integration, and you have a test phase, release phase, deploy phase, commit phase, right? So that is a continuous deployment. So CI/CD part is taken care by the DevOps, the continuous integration, continuous deploy, and these are the various services which are used. As you can see, you can use AWS code commit for storing a code, AWS code pipeline for pipeline management, Git for storing the code, Jenkins, Chef, platform. So you can also select Jenkins. So Jenkins is basically this is for continuous integration, and for the continuous delivery, you have Beanstalk, you have Code Deploy, we have Lambda, X-Ray, and CloudTrail. So you also have a CloudFormation, OpsWork, ACS, AWS Config, and AWS CloudWatch. So these are the various tools involved in continuous delivery. So depending on your requirement, depending on where you're running on your workload on the AWS, these can be suggested. So we will be discussing in the certification courses, where we'll be discussing in detail about these services, how they work, what they do, and how do we configure them. That is what we're going to learn in the certification courses. So AWS DevOps tool. So this is a gist of our AWS DevOps tool looks like for storing a code. Normally you store your code in Git. So in AWS you can store the Git in the service called code commit, which acts as a source control. So you can do a build, configure, and deploy by the AWS services with the help of code build, code pipeline, code formation, code deploy, IAM, secret manager. Using this ops work, using these services, you can achieve a automated build, configure, and deploy function in your AWS DevOps pipeline. And you can run the particular tool, you can run the application in two different tools. That is, as you can see, you can run it on a cloud, that is your EC2 virtual machine. You can also run it on the container, right? That is your EKS. You can also run it on the container, or you can also run it on the containers. It can, there's no restriction as such that you can do a pipeline only if you keep it on EC2. There's no restriction as such. You can do a container a deployment as well. So there are multiple containers, that is OpenShift, Redis, and Columbia, which is what we're checking. And also monitoring, which is very important. As I said, the platform, after deployment, the DevOps engineer work is not done, they also need to monitor. So that is where you have infrastructure monitoring and application monitoring. For each of this, we have a dedicated service called AWS Cloud Watch, which will help you to do a monitoring, to achieve a continuous monitoring, which is what we call as a CM. To achieve a continuous monitoring, we have an AWS services like CloudWatch, which will help you to do that. So this is how you can think of an AWS DevOps tool chain or a AWS DevOps services, which will be used when you're working on an AWS DevOps workload. So this is how a CI/CD process works in different models. So as you can see, so if you do a agile development, you will have to code it and build it, and then again you'll have to repeat the process every time there is a changes. In a continuous integration, you do it till the testing. There's a benchmark. When you do a continuous delivery, you do a release. When you do a continuous deployment, you deploy. And when you do a complete operate, when you do a DevOps, which means that from scratch of the development to the deployment to a respective application, the DevOps team is going to take care of it, right? So now, as you can see, the DevOps team adds to our knowledge on several services or several tools, and DevOps team is going to take care of those from the scratch development, code development into the operation mechanism and also into the monitoring mechanism.
So, guys, this was our expert from Team K21 Academy. And if you want to dive deeper to any concept, then we have something really, really, really special for you. We have our free class on AWS DevOps for Beginners certification along with some demo. In this free class, you'll be learning about why learn DevOps and on AWS Cloud, what is AWS DevOps, who should be learning about it, CI/CD pipelines. You'll be getting a demo. You'll also be getting some hands-on labs and job opportunities as well. So, in order to register for this free class, all you have to do is just log on to k21academy.com/AWS DevOps 02, and after that, you'll be seeing this kind of interface. You just have to click on book your free seat now and add your event date according to your availability, enter your name, your email address, your phone number, and click on yes, save my seat. Moving ahead, you'll be seeing this kind of URL on the extreme right. Save that URL, and I will see you in the free class. Till then, keep learning.